morning, Ari.
Good morning, Ed.
You're living the dream, so why wouldn't you be? Is there any final thoughts you have?
Something to look forward to is...
What's your goal? Good morning, I'm Ed Murphy from GreenTech HQ, an innovation centre set up in Enniscorthy, County Wexford, bringing together entrepreneurs, corporates, communities, investors to work on green solutions to the effects of climate change and greenhouse gas emissions. I have with me here this morning Kieran from TASC, and I'd like to welcome him to Enniscorthy. Good morning, Kieran.
Hi, Ed. Great to be here.
Good to hear. Well, look, Kieran, I'd like to start off today and ask you a few questions about TASC and the people's transition. So tell me a little bit about TASC, TASC, and the people transition.
Yeah, so I work with TASC, which is a think tank for action on social change. So we do research in a wide range of areas such as health, housing, inclusion, and social equality. So our phrase is turning analysis into action. We hope to, I suppose, promote a more equitable and a more democratic society here in Ireland. And in terms of my role, I work as a senior researcher in climate justice. So at the centre of my job is the project called the People's Transition. So this is backed by AIB, and the aim of the People's Transition is to enhance support for climate action by addressing community needs and community development. It was originally a pilot project which was ran in Phibsborough in Dublin and Ardara in County Donegal. So as you can imagine, two extremely different locations, one just outside the centre of Dublin and another one, a small village on the coast of Donegal. So we were very fortunate that AIB supported that pilot project and that they agreed to support us for another 3 years. And we will be going to 30 communities across the island of Ireland over the next 3 years to understand what is it that people love about their local community, but what also might be development needs which they are facing, and how can we address solutions which are beneficial for both the community and for the climate. There are, I suppose, a couple of principles which are really at the centre of the People's Transition. So there is community-led local development, so making sure that people in a community like Enniscorthy, that they have the ability to have their voice heard in development. After that, it is looking at community ownership, so making sure that it is the community who are the ones who benefit the most from whatever developments take place, and that the move to a greener and more sustainable society is seen as something which has positive outcomes and not just something which might maybe reduce people's ability to drive or ability to eat certain foods and so on, but that it can actually have positive impacts and can help to address whatever challenges might be within the community. And then I suppose the final principle is community wealth building, so that it will create new opportunities. It can create, I suppose, more money into the local economy, which can then help to fund different things like providing new amenities to the local area, just to make sure that the local area are the ones who benefit from these new developments.
Just back a little bit on TASC, TASC. What does it stand for? How did you personally get involved?
Yeah, so TASC stands for the Think Tank for Action on Social Change, and actually something I never knew was TASC is another word in Irish for work. So I think we all know Uber for work, but TASC is actually another word. So we are in, I think, our 22nd year now in operation.
Funded by who?
So we are an independent think tank. So most of our funding comes from, I suppose, government applications or applications from research. So we have a couple of different private partners. Obviously, AIB are funding this project. We have also funding from different organisations. We also have donors who, I suppose, support the work we are doing and support our ambition of creating a more fair society and hopefully a more fair Ireland and fairer world. So those would be the main sources of funding for TASC. In terms of how I became involved in TASC, I'm actually just finishing a PhD at the moment, which is between UCD, Teagasc and Biorbic, which is the National Bioeconomy Research Centre. My PhD is focusing on beef farming and how can we create new income streams for beef farmers in a way which is sustainable. And one of the, I suppose, the few research outputs on this topic was from someone called Sean McCabe, who is, I suppose, the idea of a people's transition came from Sean. So he was in the role of climate justice before I was. And I suppose looking at his research, I was very interested. And I saw that there was an opening in TASC and applied. I actually applied for it on my birthday. So
Good.
Yeah, so a very, very productive birthday anyway. But
Yeah.
so I joined part-time at the end of July and full-time since the end of August.
Oh, very, very,
So
very interesting.
new into the
role.
game, but all
And
going
tell
well.
me, how did it happen that Enniscorthy effectively is your first full project, and how did it become involved there, and basically what should be the benefits and the outcome from getting involved in the people transition?
Yeah, so how Enniscorthy was the first is down to someone called Marie Ling, who works with AIB. So what happened was, I think it was only my second or third week in the job, we got a phone call in the
Yep.
TASC office, and it was from Marie, who told me that there was great developments taking place in Enniscorthy with the Green Tech HQ, and she mentioned that they want to make sure that the community is involved and that the project aligns extremely well
Yeah.
with the ambition for Enniscorthy. So it was from Marie that I was able to get in contact with a few different people. So Irene Morris with Sustainable Enniscorthy, Dervla Tierney with Reimagining Enniscorthy, and Julie Grant in Wexford Local Development.
Yeah.
And it was really from there that they were able to get me in touch with different community groups. And I suppose a real ambition of this project is to make sure that we try and get as much input from as wide a variety of people here in Enniscorthy to make sure that I think the community has ownership over this project. So I've been able to spend a lot of time, or a good bit of time here in Enniscorthy, talking to different groups, learning what do they love about their local area, what do they think are maybe challenges or what's lacking. And the ambition, I suppose, in this project is that it runs over 3 phases. So the first phase is a mapping phase where we look to census data, we look at local government reports to get an initial lay of the land of what's happening in Enniscorthy. That leads then on to a dialogue phase, which I'll be heading back to Tipperary now later this evening. I've been spending the last week here in Enniscorthy talking to different community groups to understand what are challenges. That will then feed into a solutions phase where we look to see what challenges have been identified as some of the main challenges in the local area, and how can we develop solutions which address those challenges in a manner which works for the community and works for the climate. So the ambition is to have a final report published by the end of May, and then to have a public launch of the People's Transition in June, which will show what we have found and I suppose what we are hoping for. I suppose in the communities we're working with, it's a 9-year or a 9-month project. So we spend 9 months focusing on a particular area, but even when those 9 months are finished, we will continue to engage with the connections we've made in the local area to make sure that whatever solutions we come up with, that they are actually driven and that they become a reality. So it isn't just a case of our report is finished and that's it. We want to make sure that whatever happens, that there is a positive outcome for the community.
Yeah, there's action, there's work done.
Exactly.
And tell me, in terms of the field work that you have been doing in Enniscorthy, what are some of the findings, and not only what are the findings, but what have you found interesting or nice about Enniscorthy?
Yeah, well, I suppose the people, of course, always number one. Everyone has been extremely receptive to the idea. They're really interested. Anytime I talk about what I'm doing, they want to learn more, which is great. It is, I think, a town like I've never been in before because of the geography of the town. It's incredible. You've got obviously Vinegar Hill at one side, you have the cathedral, you have the castle, you have somewhere like Castle Street. I think there is a sign on Slaney Street that mentions that in Enniscorthy, wherever you are, you're on a hill, which is incredible. People, again, that they're really interested, and something that comes up with nearly every community I talk to is that it's a very tight-knit community, that people support one another, which is obviously so important. What was really interesting, I was able to read a report which was published in 1992 by the Chamber of Commerce, and the industry which was here, I never knew a Chivers factory because obviously strawberries are so common here in Wexford. There was a bacon factory as well. So there is that kind of great industrial tradition in the town. Unfortunately, over recent years, there's been challenges in terms of unemployment and so on. So I suppose from my perspective, what I would be hoping for is to look and see, is there a solution which could help create employment in a way which supports Green's jobs and which supports, I suppose, the creation of a more sustainable society in a way which also addresses those challenges. But again, I think there is hope in the town. There's a lot of new innovations coming together, and I suppose what we will be hoping to do in TASC is try and help support that network developing and make sure that everyone within the community will benefit from new developments which take place.
Okay, good. Where else is the people transition working, and what are the type of suggestions that either are flowing from what you say, and what do you think will be the type of suggestions that and solutions that will apply in Enniscorthy?
Yeah, so I suppose we're very lucky that we have, I think, in almost every community we're in Ireland, it's different. So Enniscorthy is the first, Mount Bellew is the second. So that is a small town, about half an hour outside of Galway. There is an agricultural college located there. So again, very typical small rural town. The third community we're in is all of County Roscommon, but just looking at agriculture. So obviously over recent years, the focus on agriculture and emissions has become a talking point in politics. I think what will be very interesting in Roscommon is looking to understand, how can we support farmers. Often you see that there's an element maybe that farmers are characterized in one area, when on the other hand, farmers are extremely interested in sustainability. They have their challenges as well, but it's about making sure that we can address those two challenges in terms of farm incomes as well as providing more sustainability. The fourth community will be in Ballymacarrett in East Belfast. So it's around Harland and Wolff. So East Belfast. So again, I think those two examples just show the difference in the range of people we'll be talking to, and obviously climate action will impact everyone, but we have a broad range of communities we'll be working with, which is excellent. In terms of solutions, so I would just give the example of Phibsborough and Ardara. So obviously one just outside of Dublin city centre, another one on the west coast of Ireland, so two very different areas. In Phibsborough, the two solutions which were developed was a retrofit cooperative. So obviously housing is one of the big social challenges we're facing in Ireland at the moment. And on top of that, you have the environmental challenge as well. So the outcome from that was the creation of a retrofit cooperative where new skills could be provided in terms of apprenticeships to help address employment in the local area, as well as looking to help promote retrofitting in terms of the energy efficiency savings that could provide, as well as the costs which that could create. What's been great about the Phibsborough example is that a couple of different organisations in the local community have come together. So you have Bohemians Football Club, one of the leading football clubs in Ireland, Mountjoy Prison, I think TU Dublin have been involved, a couple of the community energy groups in Phibsborough, Cabra, Stoneybatter, and they are now looking to promote that cooperative idea of a climate cooperative, and they've been successful in achieving funding. So I suppose our ambition for Enniscorthy is to try and show that this is the first community in the first 3-year project and that there is a successful outcome. Some of the key points which have come up is, as I mentioned, employment is one aspect in Enniscorthy. Another thing is mobility. So as I mentioned, it's a town like no other in terms of just the physical landscape. So while it's incredible on the one hand, I think it can create problems for people, say, maybe who might have issues with mobility, like elderly people with disabilities and so on. So I think that those would be two areas to look at. And I suppose the ambition is to see how can we develop a clear plan which can ultimately be successful in creating change in Enniscorthy.
Thank you, Kieran. Tell me, I think it's extremely interesting what you're doing. I love the idea of the people's transition. If people really want to get involved now and want to learn more and want to be part of the solution, what do you reckon they should do? Yeah,
so I suppose the first thing I would do would be to point them to our website, which is www.peoplestransition.ie. There you can find out information about other projects which we have run. So we have the Phibsborough Ardara and a cross-border project. You'll also see that there's a contact us section there. So they'll be able to send us an email if they have any ideas, any thoughts that they'd like to contribute. We'd be delighted to get as much information and input as possible to make sure everyone in Enniscorthy has their say in this development.
Good. Okay, to finish, just say, is there any final thoughts you have to give to our viewers?
Well, I suppose something to look forward to is we will hopefully have the report which we are writing on Enniscorthy finished by the end of May, and we will be having a public launch at some point at the end of June. So it would be delighted to have as many people from Enniscorthy in attendance. So we'll be starting to work on the logistics in terms of where we have it and so on in the coming weeks. But it'll be great to have as many people from Enniscorthy there to talk to you about our project, and hopefully it'll be the start of some very exciting projects.
Okay, thank you again, Kieran.
Thanks, Ed.
Bye-bye.
Perfect. Well done, lads.